Bedford school property. Prior to that, he was in for a meeting the day on Wednesday with the superintendent. It was supposed to be, the way I was told, as a meeting just between the two of them. If I'm wrong, John can certainly correct me. If you read the Standard Times, it looks like that wasn't the way it was supposed to be. At any rate, shortly after John's walkout of the first meeting, the superintendent signed on the dotted line the fact that she was going to resign. Her letter was already written up, but the timing is impeccable sometimes. So we will certainly get into that on the show. Question of the day from Phil Paleologos, and something that we're going to have as a regular feature here on the program and programs. That question was, the new superintendent, what type of superintendent would you want? One that's inside, familiar with New Bedford schools, familiar with New Bedford, or someone from the outside? And I personally believe that question is a bit premature. Why? I know that Colleen DeWicki, new to the school committee, and John Oliveira, new to the school committee, both want to hear from the public about what type of school system they really want. So it would be putting the cart in front of the horse if you try to decide what type of school superintendent you want without first deciding the type of schools that you want. It's a great question. It sparks great debate. But I think you try to figure out what kind of ball team you want on the field if you want to play Billy Ball before you go out and get a manager to manage Billy Ball. If you want someone who's going to be great with your pitchers, you get a pitching coach in there. So you have to decide exactly what course the ship of schools will go in before you get that particular captain. All right, enough from hearing from me at this particular time. You will have plenty of time to hear from me, and we definitely want to hear from you. But first and foremost, let's hear from a man some people are actually dubbing a hero right now, and not because of his time in the Navy. John Oliveira, welcome back. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. Good. A bit tired.
Tired from what? What have you been doing?
Well, I haven't been able to learn about the schools because I'm not allowed on school property anymore.
Hey, listen, we've got the internet for that.
Yeah, you know, I think it's unfortunate. This is a strategy used by the school administration the entire time they've been in office. This is strictly to marginalize me, discredit me. It's not uncommon for them to throw no trespassing orders out. On the campaign trail, you would be surprised the number of parents and former employees that have no trespassing orders on them.
Oh, I'm not, because we've had them here on this program before, so I know that they come out, and with relative frequency. I don't want to make it sound like they're coming out every day or every week, but many people have had them thrown out to them. So let's talk about your particular situation. Wednesday, let's start. Tuesday night, you and I are talking on the phone, and you're telling me that you're going to have a meeting with the superintendent on Wednesday.
Right.
Take it from there.
Well, you know, I'm going to mention, because Mr. DeFalco mentioned this in the paper. He said they were reaching out. Apparently, we were reaching out at the same time last Thursday. I still have my phone records that I called the superintendent's office early that morning. No one was in. I left a message. They called me later on to schedule a phone call that afternoon with the superintendent. I was tied up last Thursday afternoon, so told him, I said, well, I would like to meet with the superintendent next week. And by that afternoon, we had an appointment set up for 4:30 Wednesday.
Now, are you going to meet with the superintendent in a group setting or by yourself?
Well, I asked for a meeting with the superintendent, so I went Wednesday under the impression that I was going to be meeting with the superintendent. The whole goal of my meeting with the superintendent, I mean, obviously there was air that needed to be clear between the two of us after after a pretty heavy campaign where I did come down on her hard and call for her firing. So we needed to discuss that. I had no idea going in there at 4:30 on Wednesday how long we would have to work together. It could have been a week. It could be to the end of her contract. So, yeah, I know that I'm going to have to work with her. I want to clear the air. I want to have a discussion about issues affecting the New Bedford schools. I arrived. She came out to greet me, introduced me to Dr. DeFalco, which I was surprised at because I didn't expect him to be there. But, you know.
Why not? You didn't know how many people would be in the meeting. Why not expect him to be there?
Because the meeting was supposed to be between the superintendent and I. So she invited me into her office, and he tagged along. All right, I said, you know, and then it started. She goes, oh, have a seat, and there's a pen and paper for you to take notes. I was like, okay. All right. So I said, maybe she's just going to, you know, she's going to give me a quick briefing. And I had no problem with that. And I had no problem with DeFalco sitting there for this briefing. What it turned into was a lecture, like I was a 10-year-old and being talked down to.
Now, let's get into that because you've mentioned it before. How were you being lectured?
Like I was a 10-year-old student.
What was she saying?
Okay. Well, you know, she was trying to, I guess, lecture me on my role as a school committee member. That's not what I was there for. We have classes for that. A ton of manuals that I received the other day when I was at the school department regarding policy, roles, legal issues that I hadn't had an opportunity to read through yet. She starts lecturing, and then she, you know, things started coming up. The first thing I think she mentioned was, I don't like surprises at school committee meetings. So I send school committee members the information package before the weekend of the school committee meeting, so they have an opportunity to review it. She said, so, you know, please call me if you have any questions. And when she said she didn't like any surprises, in the back of my head, things started coming up. And the first thing that I thought of was when she threw Alma Del Mar students, possibly going to New Bedford High School, on the school committee's lap not 2 months ago. And you can go back that there were many times that she has surprised the school committee. So I'm saying to myself, all right, you don't like surprises, but it's okay to surprise us. Kept going on. Then she gets to the next one, and she says, this is when I call the school committee members if there's an emergency or something, an event happens in one of the schools. Well, the gears start turning again.
Why? Why are your ears burning right now?
Well, because on the last debate at Gomes School, I said at the debate, I said, what about the teacher that was assaulted at Keith today and the student that was detained by the police? Well, the school committee members that were at that debate all of a sudden all reached for their phones because none of them knew about it. And I had spoke to Josh Amaral before the debate. He knew nothing of it. So now I'm like, okay, so you only tell school committee members events that you feel have an impact. Well, if a teacher gets injured and goes to the hospital in an ambulance, I think that is a huge issue, and the school committee members need to be notified of that. So we got a double standard here between what she wants and what the school committee gets. Then we got to the point of she talked about school visits. And she explained to me how busy principals are, and they really don't have time to sit down with school committee members. And if I want to get into schools, I have to go through her. I made the comment. I said, I don't want a dog and pony show. I want to be able to go in there and talk to the principals, find out what's going on. What do they need? This is a fact-finding thing.
And what was her response to that, John?
Well, I didn't, you know, I didn't go into that detail with her. I was just sitting there. Yeah, I was just sitting there and not saying a whole lot, except I did say, you know, I don't want a dog and pony show. And when she went on, I said, you know, at that point, I said, okay, I enough of lecturing, enough of the lies. I said,
now, did you say that out loud?
No,
or to yourself?
To myself. And so I looked at her and I said, I think this is, at this point, you and I need to have a one-on-one discussion. She said, no, my deputy's here. I looked at Dr. DeFalco and I said, you can leave now. Dr. DeFalco.
So you were ordering the deputy to leave.
Right.
Okay.
Dr. DeFalco stood up and said, I feel uncomfortable leaving the room. Okay, I don't know why he feels uncomfortable leaving the room.
Maybe he thought you were going to throw a chair.
Well, maybe he thought I was going to throw it out the window. I don't know. At that point, I'd been sitting down, listening. Hadn't really said much of anything because it was a one-way conversation with the superintendent doing the talking off of her agenda sheet, which I never received an agenda sheet on what we were going to go over. So at that point, when they refused to have a one-on-one meeting, I grabbed my paperwork. As I was standing up, I said, okay, this is over. I stood up. I looked at the superintendent. I said, I came here with every intention of working with you, but I am not going to be lectured to. I left. And yeah,
how did you leave? Because according to the newspaper, it sounds like you didn't just leave. Sounds like there was some slamming and some F-bombs.
Yeah, and there were. It was elevated. I don't take kindly to being disrespected, being talked down to, and lied to.
Fair enough.
By someone.
Doesn't what come around go around?
So I got up. I was pissed. A few expletives did fly. As I was leaving, I reminded her how I got elected and why, because people, and I told her, I said, people are not happy with your performance. And
what did she say?
She didn't say much of anything. And then I said, I am done with you people. Walked out and slammed her office door as an exclamation point, and Elvis left the building.
Now, according to the Standard Times, Elvis may have left the building, but pretty soon the police got called after that.
Yeah, I was not aware of that. I didn't know about that until this morning, to be honest with you.
So you did not have any kind of conversation or look through or look at by the police on Wednesday?
No. I as far as I was concerned, it was a meeting that lasted less than 15 minutes. It did not end well.
And you went home.
And I went home. And that's not what I wanted to accomplish. Because I've reached out to people I slammed in the campaign. I've reached out to other people in the school department, and I've had great conversations over the last week. And that's all I was looking for with the superintendent.
All right, so let's now advance. You and I had a conversation Wednesday night about what went on Wednesday night. You didn't tell me you were going to try to have an appointment with the superintendent on Thursday. Yeah, but apparently you went down that road.
Yeah, I did.
And not that you need to tell me.
No,
but
the next morning I said, I didn't like the way it ended. I was elected to serve this community as a school committee member, and to have that relationship going on with the superintendent, it's not good. Like I said, I didn't know how long I had to work with her.
So you called her up on the phone?
I called first thing in the morning, and I left a message to have the superintendent call me.
What time did she call back?
She didn't. I went down about 10 o'clock. I said, well, I'll just go down there.
Well, what time did you call originally?
8.
So 2 hours isn't, she could have been busy.
Yeah, she could, but it was no big deal. I didn't have anything to do. I said, well, I'll just go down, and I said, I'll just catch her between meetings. This is no different, Brian, than somebody stopping by your house or stopping by your office saying, hey, I got a quick question for you.
Well, I would say this is a superintendent of schools, a busy person. Do people just off the cuff decide to walk in and try to get some time with her?
And I'm an incoming school committee member.
Incoming.
Right. Who it would be in her best interest to work with me. I am willing to work.
She knew she was leaving.
I am willing to work with her. It's just that she wants to be worked with on her terms.
So what happened at the meeting Thursday?
So Thursday I went in. Secretary was there. I asked this, I said, hey, when the superintendent gets a chance, I just need to talk to her for a couple minutes. And she said, well, she's not in right now. Well, the fact of the matter, I saw her run into her office when I walked in.
Was she wearing one of her suit outfits?
Yeah, I think it was just a dress, but yeah, I saw her run off into her office. So I said, well, I'll just sit here and wait. I'll just catch her between, a meeting or a phone call or whatever. And so I was reading a magazine. In fact, it was a magazine that the superintendent gave me the night before. And when she gave it to me, she said, if you read, you might find this interesting.
As if you took that as condescending?
Yeah. And the fact is, Doctor, I do read. And so I sat there and was reading my magazine. Oh, I don't think the whole thing was, it wasn't very long. I was just sitting there and browsing through the article. And Dr. DeFalco comes out. He says, what can I do for you? I say nothing. I said, I'm here to talk to the superintendent. So, he makes these motions of going through her schedule. And I didn't want an appointment. I wasn't demanding anything. I was just hoping to catch her between appointments. So finally he said, well, she can't see you today. I said, well, that's okay. I'll still wait. And he said, well, you're refusing to leave. And I said, yeah. And at that point, I knew what he would end up doing. He called the police. They came up, talked to him. The officers looked at me and said, sir, is there a problem? I said, no, there's no problem. I'm waiting for the superintendent, catch her between meetings. And the officer said, well, she's not going to see you today, so you got to leave, John. I was like, okay. Got up. I asked for the secretary because I had a note that I had written to give to Dr. Durkin in case I didn't see her that morning. Dr. DeFalco said, oh, she's not available. I said, you're one of her minions. You can relay the message to her. I gave Dr. DeFalco the note, and I reiterated it verbally for him. And the note said, Dr. Durkin, I am reaching out to you one more time, but I will not be lectured to, and I will not be given terms by you. If you would like to have a discussion about education in New Bedford, I will be more than happy to sit down and have that discussion with you.
That's it?
I looked at DeFalco, and I said, and that's without you being there. And I left the building again.
Did you ever see the superintendent when you were there on Thursday?
No.
You saw the police on Thursday, you saw DeFalco, you saw the secretary.
Yeah. Went home, police came by the house, explained to me that she was pursuing a no trespass order and something about harassment. I was like, okay.
Who did you allegedly harass?
I don't know. So a couple hours later, I get a text that she resigned. And while I think I was on the phone, I may have been on the phone with Taylor discussing that when the sheriff knocks on my door, bringing me the no trespass order. And, the no trespass order, it's just in effect to discredit me, marginalize me. They try to do it to Chris Cotter. They're trying to do it to me.
So you see a pattern here.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt that there's a pattern in this school administration of bullying parents, bullying teachers, bullying administrators.
I want you to hold that thought.
Sure.
I'm going to get into a break, but what I'd like to do leading into that break, John Oliveira is with us, New Bedford School Committee member-elect. He did bring in a copy today of the Notice Not to Trespass. Dear Mr. John Oliveira, you are hereby notified that I am the person in lawful control of all property owned or occupied by New Bedford Public Schools. This letter is being given to you to officially notify you not to appear on any property that is owned or occupied by the New Bedford Public Schools at any time unless officially summoned by a school official. You are hereby forbidden to attend any event, enter or remain in or upon any building, surrounding grounds, or roadways owned or occupied by the New Bedford Public Schools. This forbidding is absolute and unconditional and is to continue to be in force and effective regardless of whatever real or pretended reason, purpose, motive, intention, or emergency you may have, pretend to have, or offer as an excuse for your entering or wanting to enter said premises. John Oliveira, do you have any children in New Bedford Public Schools?
Yes, I have 3 children in the New Bedford Public School system.
All right, so let's hold on to that. We're going to take a break. 508-996-0500. Toll free at 877-996-1420. If you'd like, you can use the email, briansbeat at WBSM.com. Brian's Beat, BRIANSBEAT at WBSM.com. And welcome back to Brian's Beat. I know Thanksgiving hasn't come yet, but right now we have Christmas music available to you. Yeah, Christmas music. And all you have to do is go to WBSM.com and you will find our Christmas channel right there. Hit the button. You're going to hear Christmas music 24/7 with no commercials. All provided by WBSM. So check it out. John Oliveira in studio. Chris Cotter is going to be joining us in just a bit. Josh Amaral during hour number 2. John, this no trespass order, I before I go to a call, I want to just talk to you about this for a quick second.
Sure.
If there's an emergency dealing with your kids, you can't go to the schools.
No.
What happens if you go?
I have a scheduled meeting with one of my son's teachers after Thanksgiving. Well, so we'll probably have to do a conference call.
Or it's absolute. Does that mean that? Well, you are officially summoned by a school official. Wouldn't it be a teacher?
Unless I get officially summoned, I will not be on school property.
All right. Do you think that this notice is warranted?
Absolutely not.
You slammed the door.
Ooh, wow.
Well, how about this? If I go to the Standard Times,
if
that story, Jason DeFalco says that there was a feeling of being threatened, and that they take that kind of stuff seriously over there.
As they should. And if in fact the secretaries and the administrative staff at any time felt threatened by me or unsafe, I sincerely apologize. And I would like the opportunity to apologize to them in person. As far as DeFalco and the superintendent, if they're that insecure that they cannot have one-on-one meetings with anyone, she shouldn't even be leading the school department at that point. But grow up. That's what I have to say to them.
Grow up. All right, let's go to the phone lines, okay?
Sure.
508-996-0500. You are first up, and you're on with our guest, John Oliveira.
Good morning, Brian. Good
morning,
Mr. Oliveira.
Good morning.
Morning. If the facts of the matter are on the table at this point, it would seem to me that the no trespass order was more of an act of retribution.
It is.
Rather than actual necessity.
Yeah, this is a routine tactic used by the school administration in bullying parents and employees.
Okay. Having said that, my questions would be two. One would be, what was the basis declared in order to obtain the no trespass order? And then the second one would be, what court official actually signed it?
I don't believe any court official had to sign it. It was signed by Dr. DeFalco of the school department. So, I mean, this is fine. They're just trying to marginalize me and keep me out of the loop until he's swearing in.
The no trespass order is not a judicial product. It's a school department product.
That's correct.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you much for your call. It is indeed signed by Dr. DeFalco, and it's CC to Dr. Durkin, Heather Walmsley, and the police department's records room.
But, she never notified the school committee.
Really?
Well, it's not. They aren't CC'd. I would think that if you're going to ban the school committee member elect from school property, you would CC the school committee, the rest of the school committee on that.
Well, that should be interesting. I really don't know how that works. But I do know how to hit this button, so let's find out what this person has to say and ask. Hello, you're on with our guest, John Oliveira.
Yeah, good morning. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Excellent, you.
Good. So, I hate to say it, based on, and I'm only getting your side of it, John.
Sure.
So after your first meeting, and then, waiting in the lobby and trying to see somebody without an appointment, I have to say, based on your explanation, I think you were wrong on both fronts. I think you had an opportunity. Who cares who's in the room with the superintendent? State your case or not. And then if the person won't see you after, then you just document it, go to the Standard Times, go on a thing and say, hey, I've tried to get 3 appointments with the superintendent. She won't see me. Here's all my list of concerns. You can air this very easily, just like you're doing now, but I think you acted poorly the first time and even worse the second time, and so you're going to have to deal with the repercussions now.
And and that's fine. And I mean, I thank you for your feedback. I know everybody's not going to be happy the way this. I am certainly not happy the way this transpired, because that was not my intention going into this. I just tried to reach out. I felt the meeting went bad on Wednesday, and I wanted to reach out to her on yesterday. So and to see if we could reassess and start again, because it's important to me that everybody is involved, because we need to do this for the schools. So, but I appreciate. I take your criticism on board.
How you do things, and it sounds like through the debates and everything else, there was already friction, and that
air needed to be cleared.
Right, absolutely. But unfortunately, some people sit behind not an ivory throne. Right? It sounds like, I'm not defending the superintendent, but having been liaisons in the town. Between the town and Board of Health, Board of Education, you're right. It does get testy, and they sometimes feel very entitled, right? Either a Board of Education or school departments, they feel that they should just get whatever they want for the town, unfettered. We don't need town council members. We just get what we want. We ask what we want for education, and we get it. So there's already an edge. And it sounds like you're trying to stop that, right? And I think getting access to the principals is a great idea. I think you're on the right track, because why go through a mediator? Why not go directly to the source? Clearly, she didn't want that and is afraid of that. Why should she be, right?
Right.
So, unfortunately, she pulled a trump card on you, and so I don't know.
I mean, it's not a trump card by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, what do you call a no trespass order?
It means I can't go on school property until January 1st.
I call that. Thank you for your call. I'm going to have to agree with the caller.
I appreciate his criticism. No problem.
Trump card there. But you're owning it. Bad move on Wednesday, better move on Thursday.
I don't think it was a bad move on Wednesday. I made it pretty clear during the campaign that she needed to understand who she worked for, and that's the school committee. And I was not backing down from that.
Okay, that's fair. But you are a school committee member elect. Mm-hmm. You're not sworn in yet.
Yep.
Couldn't wait until January for that type of a statement?
I think it was imperative that I got things going in order to educate myself regarding the school system. And for me, this was a 2-month period between the election and the beginning of January for me to get acclimated, get involved, find out what the issues were, get into some specifics, find out programs that are going on in the school system.
All right, I got you on that. Let us continue. John Oliveira in studio on Brian's Beat today. Hello.
Good morning, Mr. Oliveira.
Good morning.
I'm very glad that you came in this morning, or called in, to explain your side of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And because yesterday afternoon, all I heard with the afternoon moderator was you were the crazy guy that barged in the office and sat there and caused a big ruckus there, and that's why.
No ruckus. I went in, asked to see her, sat down. I
understand that. I heard you explain it.
Yep.
And you seem like a very intelligent man, but I'll tell you, the other moderator had her on top of the mountain all afternoon yesterday. So keep up the good work when you get in there.
Well, thank you, sir. But, not everybody's going to agree. I mean, Dr. Durkin has her fair share of admirers in the community. I don't know who they are. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of them, but she does have a fair share, I'm sure. But, the school committee's election, the campaign was really driven over the superintendent's leadership.
Without a doubt, I think anybody, no matter how you feel about the superintendent, could sit there and hear certain questions that were geared toward her, and without coming out and necessarily stating an animosity toward the person, certainly professionally, there was that animosity between the people. I do want to ask you this because I think, at least where I'm sitting right now, the direction now is, look, we know where the superintendent is going to be at the end of June, but what about New Bedford schools? What direction would you like to see the schools go in?
I like, at this point, we need to get the input from the community. I am nothing more than a representative of the people. So it's really what New Bedford wants. And I think that's one of the, the things that Colleen DeWicki had really pushed during the campaign. And it was overshadowed by the issues with the superintendent. And we do need to reach out. We need to bring in all parties, find out where we want our schools to go. And I don't think we have an answer yet.
So how do you plan to go about doing that, considering you can't go on school property anytime soon?
Yeah, and I haven't really I've only spoken to a couple school committee members since yesterday afternoon. So I don't.
Were they surprised?
I know one of them was not surprised at all.
Well, okay, we'll leave it at that. John, any parting words before we let you go?
No, this is not about a bully issue. This is about a superintendent and her deputy who will only speak with people when it's on their terms, when you agree with their opinion. I've actually had attorneys tell me that they have been yelled at during arbitration meetings at the superintendent's office.
Well, let's. I mean, that's fine. Let's look at this. We know Superintendent Durkin is leaving June 30th. What about some of the people that are underneath her? We talked about Dr. DeFalco. There's Heather Walmsley. There are other folks.
Well, maybe, hopefully they see the writing on the wall, and we'll see their resignations to follow.
Or maybe you would keep them on board. Are they bad people?
Dr. DeFalco, anybody who was involved with a charter school probably should never have been a fit for a public school, in my opinion. So I personally would have never backed him to be hired as the deputy director.
All right.
But, you know, I'll do it on air. I am going to reach out to Dr. Durkin one more time. I said I wasn't, but I'll do it one more time. I would love to have a meeting with you to discuss the issues.
How about you getting an intermediary to try to set up that meeting?
Well, that's fine, too. And in the meantime, since I am not allowed on school property, I ask that teachers, students, parents, principals, anyone who works for the school system, please feel free to reach out to me. Call me, text me. I'll be more than happy to speak to you because I really want to know what's going on and what we can do to provide a better environment for our children.
John Oliveira, thank you so much for coming in studio today. I really appreciate it. 508-996-0500 is how you get onto the program. Chris Cotter waiting to come on next. And welcome back to Brian's Beat. In studio, Chris Cotter. You were just here a couple of days ago.
That is true. Thank you for having me back.
I'm glad to have you back too, my man. Wow, a lot has transpired since you were in here on Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon, John Oliveira has a meeting. After that, people are now calling him a hero.
That's what I'm reading.
Yeah. So what's your thought? What's your initial take, not only on the Oliveira situation and the trespass, but on the superintendent tendering her resignation?
Well, like I said, Brian, I think that it's been said enough throughout the last 6 months or so that I think she saw that the contract was not going to be renewed by the committee or the majority of the committee. So what her reasoning and thought process to cut a year out of her contract, that I don't know. I haven't spoken to her about that, but I was kind of surprised. Are you going to
reach out to her?
Well, because of everything else that's been going on right now, I figured now is probably not the good time to try to reach out to her, but I do plan on it.
Look, I have to tell you, it caught me by surprise. I'm not overly shocked because of the fact that there has been so much stated about the superintendent. I remember how you got onto the school committee. Many people were upset with the superintendent at that particular time, and I think that helped to usher your position. And look how many times you were the lonesome dove out there, if I can use that term, fighting against or trying to get responses from the superintendent, and things just didn't go well. And, you know, there was some friction between the two of you.
Mm-hmm. There was. But again, I mean, it's a committee. She is the CEO of the district. So we do need to work together as a board and committee, and, you know, differences are differences.
508-996-0500. We're going to be interspersing calls and Josh and whatnot while you're here. So let's continue. Welcome to Brian's Beat. You're on with Chris Cotter.
Good morning.
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 Chris, I'm not going to use my last name. My first name is Alan. I was an instructor at your academy at the Sheriff's Department. So that goes back some time. I don't know if you remember me. My question, I know you haven't been on the school committee really that long, but is our school system any better now than before she took it over?
Great question.
I mean, I can't say. I think there are some positive things that have taken place in the district. There have been some new programs and initiatives that have been implemented in the district. So I do believe that, you know, there are some areas that have been improved. But I think that, you know, there is a lot of work still to be done.
All right, let's take another one, 508-996-0500. Hello, you're on with Chris Cotter.
Well, I'm assuming that it's me, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm a former employee of the New Bedford School Department. And one of the most important things, like the fellow, John Oliveira, said something about she works for the school committee. Well, she works for the school committee and she works for the children of New Bedford. And that's the most important thing. And there are the thing that concerns me primarily is this. We have lost some phenomenal teachers and administrators that have grown up in this city that are well-versed and accustomed to the diversity in this city, the differences, and rejoice in that, and want to teach all children. And for teachers and administrators to feel so stressed all the time and so put upon like they're never doing a good job or being yelled at in front of their students is unacceptable. And you can't tell me that some school committee members have not been informed of this, because they have.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. Chris, would you like to respond to that?
Well, I've said it publicly, and I will say it again, that there are several of my colleagues that have been made aware of individuals who have left the district, from teachers to administrators, that have explained the reason why they have left the district. And to be honest with you, I'm the only one who's come out publicly to explain or to bring that to light. Nobody else wants to confirm that fact, but I do know for a fact that many have, in fact, been made aware of that issue.
Chris Cotter, what we're going to do is we're going to take a news break, a commercial break. We have your colleague, Josh Amaral, coming on, and the superintendent has made a big deal about some of the numbers. I think we're going to take a little look inside the numbers during hour number 2, okay?
Sounds good.
So you hold tight, Josh Amaral. If you'd like to get a hold, if you'd like to ask a question, 508-996-0500. We wrap up hour number 1. If you would like to call in, 508-996-0500, toll free at 877-996-1420. Taylor Cormier is getting ready in the WBSM newsroom. We have ABC News coming your way at 11 a.m.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. A few hours from now, the wife of Senate candidate Roy Moore in Alabama and a number of women say they will speak on his behalf at a news conference in that state. It comes as a new poll shows Moore falling behind his Democratic opponent.
Roy Moore has denied all allegations of sexual misconduct and that he dated underage girls. But a new poll out may be concerning Roy Moore. It's a Fox News poll conducted this week. It shows the Democrat in this race, Doug Jones, up by 8 points. Clearly a shift in this race. At one point, Roy Moore was up by double digits in a few polls. Tom Yalmas, ABC News, Birmingham.
The woman who is accused, Democratic Senator Al Franken, of sexual harassment stemming from an incident 11 years ago, tells ABC News why she decided to come forward now.
These people need to be called out. A light needs to be shown to expose what is happening, to do a change, to change the culture.
Los Angeles radio host Leanne Tweeden says during a USO tour in 2006, before he was a senator, Al Franken forcibly kissed her and took a photo where he appeared to be groping her while she slept. Franken has apologized and said he will cooperate with the Senate ethics investigation. At the White House this hour, President Trump is hosting 2007 NCAA championship sports teams. ABC's Kenneth Moten's there.
President Trump will honor 2017 collegiate sports championship teams at the White House this morning. Joining the festivities, the University of Florida men's baseball team, players from Ohio State men's volleyball, the McKendree University women's bowling team, men's tennis from the University of Virginia, and the men's and women's rifle teams from West Virginia University. Trump sparred with professional athletes earlier this year who declined invites to the White House to meet him. Kenneth Moten, ABC News, the White House.
An Argentine submarine has gone missing with 44 crew members on board. There is a big search underway to locate the vessel, which officials say may have suffered a communications error. You're listening to ABC News.
I'm Jay Farner from Quicken Loans. The rate today on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.875%, APR 4.05%. But choosing the right mortgage lender means choosing much more than just a rate. Let me ask you, does calling the company with the best client service in America, with 11 J.D. Power Awards to prove it, matter? Does calling the company that invented Rocket Mortgage, the industry's most innovative, client-focused technology, matter? Does calling the company with 17,000 plus team members who are helping to rebuild the great cities of Detroit and Cleveland matter? Of course it matters. No wonder our clients have made Quicken Loans America's #1 online lender. Call Quicken Loans today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com for the best mortgage experience on earth. That's 800-QUICKEN.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Reaction from across the city in response to Dr. Pia Durkin's announcement that she's resigning. I'm Taylor Cormier for WBSM News. In New Bedford, we have 41 degrees, sunny skies. The forecast from ABC6 is coming up. Here's what's happening. Citing the fact that both current and incoming school committee members have major philosophical differences with her own, New Bedford School Superintendent Dr. Pia Durkin has resigned. In a letter dated Thursday and submitted to Mayor John Mitchell and the school committee, Dr. Durkin says she will resign her position at the end of the current school year on June 30th. In recent weeks, incoming school committee members John Oliveira and Colleen DeWicki have said they would not retain the superintendent once her contract is up, and incumbent Chris Cotter has also been very vocal against Dr. Durkin. Cotter tells WBSM News what hurt her was her lack of professionalism when dealing with internal issues in the school system.
And I think that has led to the lack of retention of several employees throughout the district. I mean, you can be a really good physician and be really good at your craft, but if you don't have that good bedside manner, there are several patients that are going to stay away from you or get away from you.
Cotter says multiple school committee members felt that based on the terms of Dr. Durkin's current contract, coupled with her performance and demeanor, her contract would not be renewed. Durkin did say in her resignation letter that she would assist with a change in leadership to ensure a smooth transition. The city's teacher union and Mayor John Mitchell have both issued written statements regarding the resignation of Dr. Durkin. The New Bedford Educators Association wished Dr. Durkin well in her future endeavors and noted the union will continue to work with her on the many important issues facing New Bedford schools. In his statement, Mitchell says he's surprised by her decision to resign but grateful for her service to New Bedford school children. Creating a refrigerated warehouse at the State Pier in New Bedford should provide a major boost to the Port of New Bedford.
You know, our goal has for years been to be the produce hub for New England and Eastern Canada, and this is going to be a big step toward making that happen.
Port Director Edward Anthus Washburn is praising the $3.5 million investment that is made by the state. He sees refrigeration as a way to extend the shipping season in New Bedford, create new jobs, and help the city maintain its role as a leading North Atlantic port. Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito joined local legislators Thursday to cut a ribbon at the new facility, marking the completion of the project. The elected officials were surrounded by pallets of clementines in the process of being trucked to locations in the Northeast and Canada. State officials were on the South Coast Thursday, bringing with them funding for local projects in New Bedford and Dartmouth. The city is being awarded $670,000 to advance the Riverwalk project along the Acushnet River. Environmental Protection Commissioner Martin Sundberg says the money will be used for design and construction of a 2-mile walking trail from Market Basket to the Acushnet line. In Dartmouth, state officials awarded the town $632,000 for improvements to Rogers Street in South Dartmouth.
A MassWorks grant that will allow Rogers Street to be improved. Put in sidewalks so that from the Council on Aging, the DeMello School area, where Faze is, you can walk down to the water where community boating is, the boat ramp that's down there.
State Representative Chris Markey says the improvements will be a great move for those who walk near the senior center and students at the DeMello School who live off Rogers Street. And the massive mansion of former Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez has been sold. The 7,100 square foot mansion was purchased for $1 million this week, well below its asking price. Well, the developer who bought the North Attleboro property says it isn't spooky to walk around, but it does need $150,000 in repair. Hernandez took his own life in jail earlier this year while serving a life sentence for murder. WBSM News Time 11:06 in sports. The Celtics begin a 3-game road trip tomorrow at Atlanta. The Bruins continue their 4-game road trip tomorrow at San Jose. And it's the last day for the Patriots in the Denver area before they fly out to Mexico City. The team is scheduled to leave today ahead of Sunday's game against the Raiders at Azteca Stadium.
Mostly sunny today with temperatures topping out in the mid-40s. It stays breezy, which makes us feel even cooler. Tonight will be cold and clear. Overnight lows down into the 20s. Tomorrow we see increasing clouds, but we should be rain-free for much of the daytime. Rain will move in by late in the day, and we continue to see rain overnight and through much of the day on Sunday. Temperatures both Saturday and Sunday in the mid-50s. By late Sunday, temperatures start to drop with breezy conditions. From the ABC 6 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chelsea Priest on New Bedford's News Talk Station, 1420 WBSM.
41 degrees in New Bedford. I'm Taylor Cormier for WBSM News. The news at 11 brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care. We update news throughout the day right here on New Bedford's News Talk Station, 1420 WBSM, and online at WBSM.com.
Hour 2 of Brian's Beat. Glad to have you with me today. The show is wall to wall. The resignation of the superintendent of New Bedford schools. And I shouldn't say that. That's almost a lie out of my mouth because we had John Oliveira in here, but he's a part of that whole story. Do you give Chris Cotter, who's in studio, and Josh Amaral, who is joining us on the line this morning. Good morning, Josh. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Fine. I don't know about you guys. I mentioned it earlier. It seems like the air has been let out of the balloon. And when I talked to people yesterday about what happened, most didn't know. But it was like a sigh of relief, if you know what I mean. So, Josh, since you're fresh to this, did you get a similar feeling or hear any people say something similar to you?
Yeah, I think there's been, some chatter about it because as we had gone through the campaign and even really before the campaign started, just probably the last year or so of committee superintendent relations, you've seen that there was sort of a tension developing between the two, and the more closely you get to the end of the contract, you start to worry about what the future is or wonder what the future is. So now we know, and I think Dr. Durkin. I don't think it does us any favors to talk negatively about her. She's going to be resigning at this point. So I'm appreciative of her work ethic and the positive things she's contributed. I've been a vocal critic in the past, and I'll continue to be for this year when I think that's warranted. But at this point in time, I'm kind of excited for the opportunity to reshape and reform our schools.
I want you to hold that thought. Chris, your thoughts. Was there a release of that balloon, either with you or with others that you know?
Well, I will say, and again, I do have to agree with Josh that no reason to speak negative of her. But to answer that question, a lot of responses or a lot of people that reached out to me yesterday were excited about hearing the news because, again, I think they're looking at turning this into a system of better retention because, again, I think that's the important issue that this district has got to face in the future.
Now that I have the two of you joining me now, and you will have each one vote as to the next superintendent, are you thinking inside? Casey, if I can bring you forward for a second, please, on this microphone.
I'm not on camera, but that's okay.
That's all right. Casey, our question of the day that Phil started early this morning deals with the type of superintendent that folks would want in the city of New Bedford. What's that question, please?
Our question of the day: do you favor an insider or outsider for your next superintendent?
All right, so Josh, why don't you take a crack at that?
Sure. Well, I wouldn't rule out an insider, but I think a district of this size and considering the work that needs to be done here, you'd ideally find a superintendent that has experience being a superintendent. And you do have to wonder some if I think there's a positive benefit to changing some of the philosophy of the administration here in the district. So anyone who's currently working for us or inside the district may be painted fairly or unfairly with the same brush in that the philosophy is the same. But I wouldn't rule it out. I don't really have a preference. I think we'll see what the candidates are when we go through a search process and take it from there.
Chris Cotter.
Again, I can't disagree with everything that Josh just mentioned. The only thing I would add to that is, whether it's inside or outside, I think we need to look at the best candidate for this city.
I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to bring it up to the two of you. I think that somehow, some way, whether there's a survey or study sessions, Colleen DeWicki has talked about this, certainly during the campaign trail, about finding out exactly what type of system that you want. It seems ridiculous to try to bring in a superintendent and then decide the direction of the schools. So I might suggest let's put the horse in front of the cart instead of vice versa. Either one of you.
I agree, Brian. I feel the same way, and I think, and we know literally no details of what the process will be. And in fact, the school committee hasn't even officially accepted the resignation, but I suspect all of that will be coming in short order. But my hope would be that after that, maybe we could have some community dialogue and get that input from people as far as what they want to see in our schools. Look, I think Dr. Durkin's tenure is something that's interesting to look back on because I don't think there's people that would question that she's very motivated, very very competent, very intelligent. Certainly, we disagree on some of the philosophical things, but her tenure has been sort of an example that you can't create lasting and meaningful change without bringing the community with you and without bringing the staff with you. So I think we need to heavily get the consideration of those folks as we move forward.
Sounds good. Chris, you want to comment?
Yeah, I was going to say that as far as getting the input, I think it's very important to, again, hear from those that are in the trenches, that are in the classrooms, that are in the school buildings, and that's from everyone, custodial staff all the way up to lunch staff, to educators, to paraprofessionals, to administrators, as well as the community. We need to hear from them what they want to see and what direction they want this school district to go.
Josh Amaral, will there be any type of problem, friction? The superintendent has announced that she is stepping aside. You've got the Parker School, which is in her name in receivership right now. That's going to change. What kind of consideration are you giving to that?
Yeah, I've thought about that. I've actually started thinking about that pretty much around election time. As far as, if the writing is on the wall that we'll need to have a leadership change, how do we best handle that when it comes to the Parker School, where, as you know, Dr. Durkin has been appointed the receiver of the Parker School, and she's, I think now there's another one, but she was, for a time, the only superintendent named the receiver of a school in her own district. So basically at Parker School, she has the authority of a school committee and the superintendent, and we're kind of cut out of that process. My hope would be that in a perfect world, the state would return Parker School to our control and remove it from level 5 status. I'm not confident that that's going to happen, so I think the best case scenario is we're able to find a receiver that is, sort of mutually satisfactory. I look at Lawrence, which their whole school system was in receivership, and they just recently named a sort of an appointed board to be the receiver, and then they're going to select somebody to manage the day-to-day operations. I'd like to see that happen at Parker.
Chris Cotter, going along the same lines, as I look at the Parker School, in 2013, it became a level 5 school during the tenure of Dr. Durkin, not the previous superintendent. It is still a level 5 school. What is that telling you?
Well, what that tells me is that the whatever has been implemented in that school for whatever reason is not working. Again, we need to look at, and we collectively need to look at what has been the problem or the roadblocks that have been in that building that is stopping them from achieving the bump out of level 5, whether it be level 4 or better. So again, the issue that I have here is that, in the level 5 receivership is under, Dr. Durkin, and for whatever reason, that program or those issues that have been put into place are not working. So we need to try to find out where we can improve in that building.
Well, I can see from my eyes why the state would have put that control under Dr. Durkin. She was just starting, and one could easily say, well, she can't be held responsible for that school going into level 5 status. It was already going in that direction. You've got the high school, which was level 3 when she came in and became level 4, is still level 4. Is there a pattern, Josh? Is there a pattern, Chris?
I don't know if it's a pattern or what the issues are. All I can say is this, Brian, is that the high school has made some improvements. The issue that I have with the levels, and I've mentioned this before, is that in order for a school to move from one level to a better level, you need those schools that are above them to drop down. So if those schools are improving on the same level, then the level status is going to remain the same.
Maybe that's good.
Well, it is, other than the fact
but how do you know that your school is getting better?
That's the issue. The numbers.
Well, wait a minute. What we keep on hearing that the high school is getting better. Now, as I look at the two of you, I know you went to that school, and things have certainly changed since you were in the school, bad and better. But the fact of the matter is, how does one really know? A graduation rate of 70% is a C- at best.
And again, what programs have been implemented to improve that graduation rate is one of the positives that I will commend Dr. Durkin for, because she has stepped up to providing students that are struggling that additional step where they might be able to push themselves over the edge to graduation. But again, I mean, if those schools above New Bedford High School are not dropping, then New Bedford's not going to move out of that level.
And I suppose the whole district has to think the same way too, being a level 4 district. Unless other systems drop, then you stay level 4.
That's correct. It's
how
not a fair process.
How do you feel about that, Josh?
What's the question, Brad?
How do you feel about that then?
That the district is a level 4 district?
Yes.
I agree
and it's going to stay
Chris
there.
has said, where the level system is really sort of an arbitrary system, and if you look across the state, the only systems that get designated with level 5 or level 4 designations tend to be urban school districts. Many families that are dealing with poverty, dealing with English as a second language, dealing with a higher preponderance of special education needs. So I wonder sometimes if the question is really fair, because I would put New Bedford's teachers up against teachers in any other district as far as quality and skill and commitment.
Which one, the teachers that are still here or the teachers that left?
Well, unfortunately, both, I guess. I think we've lost a lot of our good educators, but we still have a pretty dedicated and very talented bunch as well.
Fair enough. I know you're working and your line is dropping every once in a while.
I'm actually not working today, so it's a sick day for me.
Oh, I thought you were in a meeting and couldn't come in.
I was, and then,
You do sound a little stuffy, Josh. Hope you feel better.
I picked a really terrible 2 days to get sick. In fact, some of these headlines I thought I was having, like a fever, deliriousness dream.
Oh, okay. So he's delirious. That's what we're hearing out of all of this.
That might be it.
Could be the medication.
Oh, my goodness. 508-996-0500. I'm going to try something new here. Let's see if I can get the phones to work the way that they should. Thank you very much. If you can turn your radio off, please, I would appreciate it. You're on with Chris Cotter and Josh Amaral.
Am I on right now?
You are.
Oh, great. Good afternoon or good morning still. The reason for my call is because I've been following the education with the election, and I'm a former teacher in the city. I worked 15 years at both the middle and high school level. I have a master's, I'm a certified principal, and received exemplary evaluations, but currently do not have a job. So I felt that it was very important to let the public know, number one, the reason you just mentioned on the radio regarding the high school. I did some research, and if you go to your Facebook page, I sent you some links with all the data that I had done during the campaign. Dr. Durkin has shown the school committee, or made it look to the school committee as though we've made progress at the high school, because she's basing that information on in-school data, in-school assessments used with Galileo and Dibbles, which are programs that allow you to create common formative assessments to track your students' progress. And when
Is that
they
good
don't
or
do
bad?
well, you go back and you reteach the standards where they're weak in order to show improvement.
Hold
But
on a
there's
second.
no
Slow down a
from
second.
that to the state.
Slow down a second. Is that good or is that bad?
It's bad because if you look at the high school, and the information that I just sent you is all verified. I pulled out the data for New Bedford High under Dr. Durkin. She's saying that we're making progress, but she's basing that again on in-house testing that she has control over. They control what goes into the test, what's going to be taught, the instruction. I know because I played a big role in that at the middle school level. And at the high school, if you look at the data from MCAS, our students have not improved in the 4 years under her. And being proud that we have a 55% dropout rate, we decreased by 5% is an embarrassment. Granted, she has put some good initiatives in place. The data cycle is great because it does allow you to determine individualized student need and where the improvements need to come from. But when you're not aligning it to the state test, which is what she should be held accountable for. If our children cannot pass and graduate high school to become further productive members in society, then what's the point? I had students in class 2 years ago at Keith that couldn't even speak English. And when I went to the principal, Paula Bailey, with concern, I was told, you're the teacher, figure it out. Well, it's for all of us to figure out. Not only how are we going to help them succeed, not just socially promote them, but I had two 15-year-olds in the 7th grade threaten to murder me and slice my throat. Nothing was done at the school level. I had to take it to court, which is very sad. That school in 2012 ran beautifully because you had consistent leadership in our schools. If you look at the principal chart that I sent you, we've lost 23 principals in 4 years. The turnover rate, if you have that high of a turnover rate with principals, you cannot build capacity. Therefore, you cannot have a shared vision that's going to continue under her leadership or any leadership.
I'd love
So
to take a look at
the high turnover
this.
of principals, the 880 teachers. If you look at the total staff that I literally printed out from every school committee minutes from 2013 to current, and I documented, it's about 8 pages. It's 8 pages long, but if you look at it, 1,356 new hires for total staff in 4 years. If these were not red flags to our school committee, then shame on us, because we are the ones that are providing the disservice to our children, and we're going to be picking up the pieces from this for probably 10 years to get back on track to where we need to be. And it's sad, because our children are suffering.
All right.
And people that were committed to our community, I would have retired from the school system. And I still don't even have an answer as to why I don't have a position today when I did receive the exemplary evaluations that I did. I think that her resignation was the best thing that could happen at this point in time. And with the new school committee members working together with the community, I think that we can now begin to pick up these pieces. But we have to clean house just like she did at central office.
All right,
thank you. Her regime needs to go as well.
I think we get it.
Leadership.
Thank you very much.
Sounds
Boy,
like
it
we
was
might
a
have
lot.
a candidate for one of the seats on the search committee.
Let's do this and say, Josh, you heard
Yes,
quite
sir.
a bit there. What's your comment?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack. My thinking in the back of my head is, I hope people that have the time and the willingness to compile that much information come forward to serve on the superintendent search committee, because I'm sure we'll be looking for public representation on that. A lot of what she said is true. I don't know the particulars of her situation or of some of the things that she alleged there, but I don't doubt them, and I'd be willing to look at them going forward.
Well, it speaks volumes to me, Chris Cotter, because basically what she is saying, the numbers are there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about what the numbers say, but the numbers have been fudged to make things look a little bit better than what the reality is.
Well, it's not just the numbers. It's the same issue when it comes to the surveys that are done through central office, and it's exit interviews. The whole issue is that it's whatever data is presented to who is looking at the data is what we have to look at. So those that are presenting and preparing that data, we have to take on their face value that this is the total data package that we're getting, and not just a snapshot of what's going to make something look better.
Well, it almost sounds like you need to have your own investigator at the school committee to double check on what somebody is presenting to you, which is called due diligence. But sometimes you don't have the time. You are a busy police officer. Josh is up at pace, and I don't want to leave any committee member out from what they're doing. The mayor is certainly being the mayor. So you guys have busy schedules, and you are relying on accurate information in order to make a sound decision when you're making votes every month.
Correct. And again, it's not just that. We need to again, do that check and balance issue, is that we got to check and make sure that we're getting all of the information and not just a snapshot of the information.
Trust but verify. Do you remember who said that?
I don't remember exactly, but
President
I have heard
Reagan. Josh, you want to hold tight?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you much. Josh Amaral is joining us. Chris Cotter. We're going to get to your phone calls on Brian's Beat. This is the Friday edition. And welcome back to Brian's Beat. We have Josh Amaral joining us. We have Chris Cotter. We're talking about the superintendent tendering her resignation basically yesterday, but according to the timestamp, she signed on Wednesday. Everybody has been listening to us, so if you guys don't mind, I'm going to take a few phone calls, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's start right here. Thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on with Chris and Josh.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm excellent. You?
Good. Listen, this all started, what was it, 3.5, 4 years ago with this nuclear plan that when they fired all the teachers. We have yet to recover from that. Now, and no one really gets to the root of the problem in our system. You know, they talk all around it. And I've discussed this with Josh and a few other people, and with John Oliveira. And our problem doesn't exist with the teachers in the classroom. It doesn't. Some of it, yes, up top. That's where our problem is. But the big factor in our educational problems is the fact that we've had, in the last 20 years, Section 8 mobility certificates. Now, it doesn't sound pretty, but I'm going to give it to you real quickly.
Okay.
It's allowed people to move in here to give two craps about their kids adjusting so they do a lousy job. They do a lousy job bringing their kids up. I've said this many years ago, and I got booed for it, but it's the truth, and I'm going to give it to you. A lot of our residents don't do a good job bringing up our kids. Dysfunctional people bringing up dysfunctional kids. So consequently, our educational system's going to be in the dumpster. Now, what's the solution? Well, you can't keep putting tax dollar after tax dollar off at a bad situation. You can't do it. You can't keep adding people that are struggling as it is their money and tell them it's going to solve the problem when it's not going to solve the problem.
I know you waited a long time, but Kip, what is your solution?
Stop adding money and get our state senator and our two representatives to start doing some work that they're getting these ridiculous pay raises for, and give us more local autonomy in our school system.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, the state is dictating to us, and it needs to stop because, and Josh knows this, we have a problem in that our kids there's no jobs for them to begin with because of illegal immigration. I mean, the Department of Labor said we lost 3,500 jobs, I think 3 years ago, to illegals, people working out of temp agencies because our greedy employers don't want to put them to work. So what needs to be done? Josh has a good idea, and so do I think I do.
All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Josh get to his idea. I'm letting you go because we've got a full bank of phones. Josh, what's that great idea?
I don't really know. It was interesting to hear Mike talk about some of the issues here, and no doubt part of it is a multi-generational kind of educational gap that dates back to the Industrial Revolution. I will say this, though. We can't change the parents that we have. We can only work with them. So if there are parents that are less than stellar here, as there are in every community across the state and the country, what kind of things can we do to get them up to speed? Because we have to live with those kids. We have to make those kids as productive as possible and ingrain them into our society. So I'll never blame a parent. I'll just try to work with them to get them up to speed.
Chris Cotter, what about local control of schools, reining that back to New Bedford?
I can't disagree with Mike on that. We need to, provide the autonomy to our educators to get them the tools and allow them the necessary tools that can engage those kids. Because, again, parents are going to be parents. We can't change that, but we can certainly change the mindset of these kids that are walking through our doors.
508-996-0500. Hello. Thank you for your patience. You're on with Chris Cotter and Josh Amaral.
Good afternoon. Good early morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I really called in a long time ago because what I see here is beautiful. I believe, Mr. Cotter, they came after you numerous times when you first got elected, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. All right. So now, how many members are there on the school committee?
6 elected. The mayor is number 7.
Great. So now there seems like there's 3 guys there, maybe more. And what you guys have done, all 3 of you, is you've been so frustrated that you took the time to leave whatever you were doing and put in the extra effort to try to straighten it out. And it just shows with the last gentleman that was on the first guy that was on this morning, and Chris, I'm sure you know, what extent these people are going to go through to try to get you to go by their ways of thinking. And I just wanted to commend you because if you guys can keep going ahead, I think there's better things, and I think you can help us and guys like you straighten out the state representatives, the senators, and so on and so forth, because you guys are the pioneers in this, and I think you guys should be stepping up and moving ahead, and it just shows you how scared they are when they come out and they try to intimidate you with no trespasses, and I believe they did some stuff to you, Chris, and then the other one stepping down immediately, shows you how scared they are, and keep up the great work. And I think all three of you are patriots, because when you pull somebody out of their private lives to come in and have to run for school committee or different offices, you're going to get just what they don't want. The apple cart turned upside down, and keep it up. I'm proud of every one of you guys down there, and think about further aspirations.
All right, thank you very much for the call. I have to agree with them. You guys you're running a patriot movement.
Thanks for the comments. That's pretty much where I'll leave it at that.
Josh?
Yeah, I'll second that with Chris. I mean, we recognize that.
You guys, what are you guys going to be having a little love affair between? Oh, I love him too. You know.
Hey, we've been on here for 2 years now. We see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, as do I with the other committee members too. I mean, I think maybe the three of us will get more credit today, and certainly from that last caller. But I think all the members of the school committee are more or less on the same page, and some people don't necessarily get credit for that. But I think this is bigger than just us.
508-996-0500. Hello, you're on with Josh Amaral and Chris Cotter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, my name is Michelle Furtado, and for 2 years I stood outside of public schools in 5 towns, including New Bedford, and I would like to testify to the intimidation that I experienced in the New Bedford public schools when I was there. I stood silently, well aware from drop-off locations for safety purposes, and at the Gomes School, Kempton School, Swift School, and Hathaway School, I received administrative intimidation. Listeners can read all of my comments on the New Bedford Live Facebook page. I also was approached off of school property by Mr. DeFalco in front of the Normandin Middle School when he told me to stay away from our kids when I have not approached his kids at all. And I would also like to comment that the police were called to where I was standing in front of the administrative building on October 7th in either 2014 or 2015, where the police officer came up to me and told me he was responding to a call at that location of someone yelling at cars. Anyone listening or throughout the city who has seen me holding my signs knows that I stand silently. I do not wave at cars. I stood silently. And I would still love to know who made that call when I was standing on October 7th in 2014 or 2015, silently in front of the New Bedford Public School Administration Building. I believe this administration runs on intimidation for whoever presents a view in opposition to their agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Josh and Chris, I want an answer from both of you. Perception or reality, people are believing there is that air of intimidation that goes on over at the Proud Building.
Me or you, Josh?
You can go ahead.
I could tell you that on my level, I think it's more than just a perception. I've spoken to enough people that have presented reality comments, and some have left the district with that reality that some are to this day are still very apprehensive on even coming to a school committee meeting because of the way they were treated.
Mr. Amaral.
I've heard people claim to be that there have been attempts at intimidation, or that they've developed a fear, particularly with sharing information, and that's obviously troublesome. It's a difficult thing to really pin down and prove one way or another, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and you hear the same thing over and over again. There's going to be some validity to it. At the same time, I will say I think yesterday and Wednesday's incidents with Mr. Oliveira are unfortunate, and I hope that stuff doesn't happen again.
I think we all hope it doesn't happen again. Thank you for your comments on that. Let's continue on Brian's beat. In studio, Chris Cotter. On the phone, Josh Amaral. Hello.
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 I've been a teacher for 37 years. I'm retired now. And a lot of teachers, when we go to meetings, you would see we all look like we were middle-aged. Then you saw a sea of gray hair. So it was time for a lot of people in the last 5 years who got to the age that they retired. So you got to be careful saying they all retired because they were unhappy. I was never unhappy. I could teach. I had no problem. But I had a problem with a politician. On Parents' Night, maybe about 15 years ago, I had a child who had a parent who was a politician. He came into the room before the 7 o'clock opening of open house. He walked in, lumbered up to me, made believe like he was going to slap my face, but he waved his hand in front of my face and he said, "You work for me." And I said, "Excuse me?" And his wife was like 15 feet behind him. She came over and he goes, "And you work for her too." And he used his other hand like he slapped my face and put it in front of his wife's face too. And I said, "I don't work for you. I work for these students." And then I started to lose it. I just talked, he just stayed quiet. He left the room and he says, "Hold on." He left the room, he came back and he shook my hand. He says, "Let's start again." He had class. He came up to me and we talked fine. Everything was forgotten, and I had respect for him because he did something that this person who's calling himself a hero is a big fool. I'm embarrassed by what New Bedford is doing.
Well, thank you very much for your call. I do appreciate it. Guys, I'd like to do this right now. I want to thank Sandra Sylvia, who took a bunch of numbers dealing with New Bedford schools, in particular the high school. And I just want to go over some of the things in particular that the superintendent has been putting out in her self-evaluation and in the resignation letter. One of the bullet points: increase in advanced placement qualifying scores from 22% to 36% this past year. And that's true, all right? But if you look at the 2014-2015 year, we're talking about 19.9%. The year prior, 39%, which was the first year that Dr. Durkin was in. And the year prior, which was the year before she was in, it was at 38.4%. So clearly, from the time that Dr. Durkin came in, you want to give her credit for the 39? Excellent. If you want to say it was part of the past administration, I don't care. Either way. But then you went down the pole, down from 39 to 19 to 22%, now back up to 36. So it looks good when you say from 22 to 36, but the fact of the matter is this ship was sinking before. Josh?
Well, I don't have the data that you're talking about right in front of me, but a few things came to mind. One, her evaluation is an annual thing, not we're not evaluating her from the beginning of her tenure to current. It's just for the last year, so that would be relevant. But when we're talking about AP scores at the high school, it's also important to note that in, I think it's 2014, there was also a huge increase in the number of students taking the AP exam. So when I was a student at New Bedford High School, it was sort of difficult to get into the AP program. I think it was purported to be, open enrollment for whoever wanted to participate, but the reality was it wasn't. So they've expanded the opportunities to try to push more students into those advanced courses, and the first couple of years of that weren't that great because some of those students weren't necessarily prepared or weren't necessarily adjusted to taking them, and they didn't do well on the tests at the end of the year. But in I think last year, we kind of leveled off a little bit. Students did better on the tests, although not significantly better than they historically have, but more students are taking the test and scoring well. So the percentages can be a little deceiving.
Chris Cotter, dropout rate. Let's see, 2012, 2013, the last year of the old administration, 102 dropouts. There were also 2,400 students in the school. First year of Dr. Durkin, the dropout number went down to 85, but the number of students was actually 24, 26, maybe the promise of a new administration coming in. Year after that, the dropout number went down to 62, but the number of students also declined to 2,150. The year after that, the dropout number went up to 91, but the amazing thing here is that the number of students enrolled, 9th through 12th grade now, dropping down to 2,066. There has been a drop each and every year since the first year that Dr. Durkin came in.
Again, without seeing the data in front of me, I have glanced at what Sandra has put out there.
These are state numbers.
Right. And again, my issue is that there have been some programs that have allowed students to give more bites at the apple to try to get themselves to that graduation level. But the bottom line is the numbers that are being presented, you know, you've mentioned it quite often, is that we've gone into a 5-6 year high school diploma gap now where a lot of these kids are not graduating in that 4-year program. So are those numbers from DESE or the state being presented just on that 4-year category?
Well, it is on the 4 years. You're right, 9th grade through 12th grade. But this is dropout. This isn't graduation. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go into a break. I need to bolt out of here. My colleague Barry Richard is here. Chris Cotter is here. Casey has been producing an excellent show today. Josh Amaral is on the phone. Thank you much. We'll do it again 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Adios.